Yun Ching Zhan, 33 years old, and Zun Yong Lu, 34 years old, have been charged with conspiracy, smuggling goods into the United States, false statements, and visa fraud because Yung Ching Zhang was working at a university, and her boyfriend, Sun Yong Lu, was smuggling in toxic fungus that could poison the U.S. food supply. And apparently what they were going to do was work on these pathogens at the university. This is the University of Michigan. And they might have already been working on it. At least Jan is the girl and Lou is the guy. I'll try to remember that because they both sound like men's names, John and Lou. But in any case, Jean was the girl. She might have already been working on it. Lou, when he tried to come into the country, was turned around at the Detroit airport. He was just sent back. And they abandoned his poor girlfriend. His poor girlfriend, I guess, has been arrested. Why? Why are the Chinese sending students to bring toxic fungus to American university campuses? First of all, most things on university campuses are toxic today. So had the fungus made it, it would have fit in just fine. But the reason that the CCP is trying to bring fungus to the campuses is to work on it, to investigate it. You know, there are a lot of scientific instruments available to them to work on this, and presumably in case they need to use it. These guys have ties to the Chinese Communist Party, as do many students of Chinese origin who are at American universities, which is why Marco Rubio is going to revoke a lot of their visas. Why is the CCP targeting campuses? Because the CCP understands something that American liberals have understood for many decades at this point, and that conservatives need to figure out, which is that the campuses matter. The campuses really matter. They're power centers. They produce elites who will go on to run the country. They conduct scientific research. They are a nexus for powerful people coming out. They matter, okay? And the conservative view, and I've heard many conservatives say this, and I've heard relatively few state the opposite opinion, which is they'll say, oh, who cares about those stupid campuses? Let the left have them. Oh, who cares? Don't go to college. Oh, no, it's all dumb. It's all a waste of time. You're just sitting around reading Derrida or whatever. You need to go out and get a job. Let the left have the campuses. They're all stupid anyway. That's not the CCP's opinion. That's not the American left's opinion. The American left worked doggedly to take over the university campuses because they realize it's powerful. And so, if conservatives want to do anything, we need to exert a little power in those areas. We need to exert a little control. We need to make sure, as President Trump is demonstrating beautifully in the case of Harvard and other schools, but especially Harvard, we need to make sure that the mission of the university is ideally in line with our national and political mission, but at the very least, not totally contrary to it. This is not, the toxic fungus is not the first time the Chinese have tried to take over American universities. They had the Confucius Institutes. They continue to fund the universities through the tuition of their elite children and through all sorts of other grants. And they buy them off because they know they're very powerful places. And conservatives should play that game too. Now, speaking of young people, a marvelous, marvelous essay by my friend Madeline Kearns, who's been on this show a number of times. Maddie Kearns writes in the Free Press how Catholicism got cool. Young Americans and people around the world are flocking to the Catholic Church. The Free Press spoke to them to find out why. This is not surprising. A lot of you have noticed this. There is a return to faith broadly. The declining Christianity of the past several decades has leveled out, but there is a turn toward Catholicism in particular. Why? Because young people, many if not most of whom have been raised without religion or without conscious religion, want something solid. And I don't care if you're the most anti-Catholic person out there and you disagree with the veneration of saints and you don't believe in transubstantiation and you hate the Pope or what. Even the most anti-Catholic person has to admit, the Catholic Church is pretty solid. It's the only institution in the West that has persisted from classical antiquity, from roughly the year 33 AD, all the way up to the present. There are no other institutions in the West that have done that. It's solid. Also, the church makes authoritative claims. Other institutions, including religious institutions, they seem to change their mind left and right. Okay, now this week we're going to have women priests. This week we're going to redefine marriage. This week we're going to accept abortion or contraception. The Catholic Church, again, I don't care if you're the most anti-Catholic person in the world. The Catholic Church doesn't really change its opinions, does it? Does she? No. No women priests, no gay marriage, no contraception, no, none of that. And in part, this is because the church, with the weight of the magisterium, can't just start changing stuff, can't just start inventing new doctrines. We just had a relatively very liberal pope. And even that pope, Pope Francis, was constrained. Even if he had wanted to be a radical innovator, he was really constrained. And some of the things that he wanted to do, some of the things, he was a little unclear about whether or not cohabitating people are effectively married. That was one issue that it sounded like Pope Francis was saying that people who aren't married but who are living together in a state of grave mortal sin are like basically married. And it just was reported in the news that Pope Leo XIV has come out and kind of clarified, no, that's not how it, in case you misunderstood, but no, that's not how it works. So I think the solidity is part of the reason why people are converting, especially young people. But the other thing is, we've just come out of the trans nonsense, and I think that's over. I think is well on its way to being eradicated from public life entirely. It's people don't believe it. It's a punchline again. After the trans nonsense, people want incarnational and sacramental religion. Christianity is by definition incarnational, and I think sacramental as well. But the trans idea said your identity has nothing to do with your body. And Christianity says, no, the body matters. We're not Gnostics. We're not Albigensians. We're not Manichaeans. We're not any of these ancient heresies that kind of minimize the role of the body. We are body and soul, and the body matters. And the body has something to do with my identity. And if I want to worship in a real way, I'm not just going to go sit in my little room and close my eyes and not engage with my body at all, because for goodness, the body matters so much that our Lord becomes flesh and dwells among us, is born to a woman in Bethlehem. It matters. And he tells us, you got to eat my flesh and drink my blood, or you won't have life in you. And he actually tells his apostles that on multiple occasions. That, I think, is the draw. Because a lot of modern religion, just like modern political ideology, minimizes the role of the body, minimizes the role of flesh, pretends that we're all just atoms floating in outer space, without beginning, without end, never going to die. And reality ain't that. Very good stuff. I like it. I encourage you all to go read Maddie's column, talking to the young people, giving their... These are my reasons. But listen to the young people in their own words. That was a great clip. Now stop. Subscribe, please. Thank you.